I'm sorry, Jack Wolf store? Oh,
Is that so? I'll come here. Okay. The Torah tells us on page 320, this is Yaakov is going looking for a wife. Jacob is looking for a wife, and he sees Rachel approaching. Sentence 11 on page 320, and Yaakov kisses Rachel. He lifts up his voice and he cries. Interesting, Rashi, and he cries. First interpretation Rashi brings in sentence 11 is that he saw they wouldn't be buried together. It's another discussion. I'm not getting into that today. Alternatively, he came with empty hands. Eliezer, his father's servant, when he came to find a wife, he had nose rings and bracelets and all kind of delicacies, and I have nothing. This is a grown man, maybe the greatest Jew of all time, certainly the greatest of our forefathers, crying? First of all, what does that say about our mothers? You know, you came home, you didn't bring me a present for my anniversary? Like the devastation that they must have felt that makes the husband cry? Cry? You know, it's just, I remember a couple of years ago in the community, actually 2 stories in the community. Someone told me he was going with a girl, very serious, getting married, and he actually eventually married her, and she wasn't happy with a 2-carat stone. I told him to drop her. Get rid of her. Anyway, he did. Got married. About a year later, they got divorced. And somebody else in the community was also, I wasn't involved in it, he just told me that he was getting engaged, and she wasn't happy with the size of the stone. That was really it's what he could afford. It was 3/4 of a carat, a small stone. He dropped it. You know, I don't know if that was inappropriate, maybe it wasn't, but just anybody gets so concerned about things like that. That's not a girl you want to marry. And here you cry on the fact. The husband cried. The potential husband, the greatest Jew, is crying. He must. If he's crying, you can imagine how upset he imagines she is. Would you want to marry a girl that got so upset because you didn't have gifts? Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't say that she's upset.
Huh?
I don't think it says that she's upset.
But I'm saying, if he's crying. Why is he crying? It's nice to do, but crying is a very strong emotion. He's like broken from the fact that he didn't bring. When was the last time you broke down because you didn't bring flowers for Shabbos? You start crying.
Yeah, after she hit me?
Okay, now let's go to page. Okay, it's page 328. Here we have Leah having her 4th child by the name of Yehuda. She's had 3 children. Rachel's had none so far. Now she has her 4th child. So sentence 328, page 328, sentence 35, right at the top. And she becomes pregnant again. She has 3 children, and she gives birth to a son. And she says, "Now I'm going to thank God." And therefore she called him Yehuda. And then she stopped having children. Go ahead. Dr. Bertrand just delivered a grandchild of mine 2 days ago. And take a look at Rashi. So she said, "Now I'm going to thank God." Why? Because I took more than my share. Now I have to give thanks. On 3 children, you don't have to thank. 1 child, you don't have to thank. Because everybody is just having children a guarantee. Well, it makes no sense. Now I better thank for that. What kind of human being needs to have 4 children? And also, why is she thankful? She has more than everybody else. That's what you think. I got more money than everybody else. I'm the richest, therefore I got to thank. I have to thank because thank God I have a living. Thank God I have plenty of money. Thank God I have parnasa. No, only when I have more money than everybody else, that's when I think, what kind of human being is that? Because they knew there was going to be 12 children, there are 4 wives, so the logic was each one would have 3. Now I got 4. Now I'm really, now I can look down at everybody else. Now I better thank God. It makes no sense. We're talking about the holiest and greatest people. What does this mean? In fact, the question gets a little stronger. The Talmud tells us in the Tractate of Bracha something very interesting regarding this wife. Leah, she said, I'm going to thank God. Yochanan said in the name of Shimon ben Yochai, from the day God created the world, there was nobody that thanked God until Leah came. What does that say about all of them? What does that mean?
Entitlement. Don't do that.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody was sick to her. What does that mean? And she needed 4 kids to do it. It makes no sense here.
She had previous sons?
She had 3. This is child number 4.
Of sons.
Of sons, yeah. Yeah, I understand. Girls, you don't understand. This is son number 4. Son number 4. And she's thanking God. Thank God that, thank you, God. Better thank now because I got more than everybody else. I mean, it's just a wrong thing. Yeah, you're right. Like it's like a sense of entitlement. The fact that she, thank God, has a child. And by the way, it wasn't easier. She was actually barren for a while. She was barren, and God looked at her and saw her suffer. Right? He gives her a child. So it wasn't even a slam dunk. She'd have 1 child. And we finally have this appreciation. And nobody till then did that. It also makes no sense. First of all, we had people bringing sacrifices. We had Cain and Abel. God gave them fruit, brings fruit. Abel was a shepherd, he brings the sacrifice. Did not thank you? What is that? What is that? He brings a thank you to, he has sheep, and he brings a sheep offered to God. What is that? That's not thank you. I'd like to begin. I think this is a huge insight here, and I think it's we really can define it precisely. It'll be a huge help in dealing with our children for sure, and our spouses. Let's read the sentence 35 on page 328 again. She became pregnant again, and she gave birth to a son, and she said, now I will thank God. That's in the future tense. Now I will thank God. Apam odes Hashem. When someone does you a favor, you thank you very much. Not now I will thank you, but in the future I'll thank you. What do you mean? What does it mean? I will thank in the future. Someone does something for you, thank him now. You don't. Someone did you a favor. You know what? Now I have to go say thank. God's right there. Instead, you do a favor for me. You know what? Now I'm going to decide to thank you. I have to thank you. Not in the future. I'll thank you. What it's saying is like this. Of course, Abel, Cain, they brought sacrifices to God. God gave them fruit. God gave them sheep. Thank you, God, for what you've done for me. What she here is saying is, I'm going to do an ongoing thank you. Not just for what you've done till now, and I thank you for what you have done. I am now thanking you. I understand I have to thank you in the future. What does that mean? Just I'm reading what the sentence says. Until now, God did favors, a human being thank. She's saying, now that you have done this for me, I am going to have to thank you in the future. What does that mean? It has to mean that there's a certain type of thing when someone does something for me. It's not just that I'm thanking them for what they have done, but the transformative, or what they've done for me has been so transformative that everything that I will ever do in the future is going to be altered by what they've already done for me. You do me a favor, I have to say thank you. When I say that based on what you've done for me, I'm going to have to thank you in the future, means everything that I will accomplish in my life from here on in, I have to thank you for. Well, if you'll do it, it means that what you've done for me now is something which has given me a new understanding that transforms me, and that everything I do from now and whatever I accomplish, it's because of what you've already done for me. You've transformed me, and everything from here on in is, anything I do from here on in, I have to say thank you for.
It's a lifelong obligation.
Yeah, but that's only could possibly be true, that what you've done for me now has so transformed me that every single thing I will ever do and be from here on in is because of what you've already done for me, which is nothing to do. Cain and Abel, thank what God did for them. Thank you for Parnasa, thank you for success. Thank you. Now the question is, what is about this that is actually so transformative? I mean, being a mother to some extent is also transformative, right? Person wasn't a mother. Well, certainly being a mother has an ongoing, lasting effect, but that's part of what you've done. You've made me a mother, right? It's a very important thing. You've made me a mother, and I'm very grateful, but it doesn't affect the way I eat breakfast in the morning. It doesn't affect if I have a job. It's a different. It's not not that everything I'll be in life from now on is because I'm a mother. I still have a life besides being a mother. I think, I don't think too many women realize that. But there's still a life besides motherhood. So what is it about this? I think it's a very interesting thing. What happens now? Everyone is supposed to have 3. She has 4. So what's this? I'm more than you? That's a sickness. I mean, I start measuring, how did I got more money than you, I got more kids than you. That doesn't make any sense. Right? I'm more than you. Okay, that's terrible. Even that gives me a real charge. I got more money. I got a nicer car than you. I have smarter kids than you. I got 4 kids than you. How many kids are there supposed to be in the corporate entity of the Jewish people? 12. That means everybody should have 4. The fact that God gave her 3. The fact that God gave her 4. What's God telling her? There's no extra child here. What is it?
Someone's going to get less.
Someone's going to get less. Okay, that certainly can't make anybody happy. I hope that would be a sickness to be happy with that. It means that for some reason, somebody can't do their job. The fact that somebody can't do their job, you're picking up the slack for somebody else. When you have a group, and we all have responsibilities, and one person can't do the job, who picks up the slack? Nobody has to pick up the slack. You get rid of that person, you hire somebody else. Somebody that picks up the slack for somebody else. What does that say about them?
You're stronger. They have a higher goodness. They have a higher commitment.
A higher commitment, but which means what? Like this. An employee, you have 10 employees, you got 12 employees, and one can't do the job. You got to fire them. No one's supposed to do anybody else's job, right? What about a manager? When an employee doesn't do a job, if you're a manager, what do? The employee, school, there's a bus driver. The bus driver's not there this morning. The teacher's going to start driving the bus. You get a call. I'm the teacher. Right? And go out and get a bus driver, right? What about the principal of the school? If there's no bus driver this morning, what's he going to do?
He drives.
He's going to drive. A manager is responsible not only for... The manager is not only responsible for... He's not only a job, he's ultimately responsible for everybody's job. That's what being in charge means. I'm responsible for everybody's job. What it's saying over here is that she now understands she's not just one of the workers in the Jewish people, one of the contributors to the Jewish people. God, by giving her gave her message. Somebody can't do what they're supposed to do. When somebody can't do, you are taking up the slack. It's not that she's more than that. That means she understands from this that she has a whole different position. She's a manager. And a manager is already a different view of yourself. It's a different station in the Jewish people. And by the way, that means from here on in, she's responsible for everybody's job. Here it's in terms of how many children. Maybe someone's going to have a problem giving their children right education. You are responsible. The greatest thing we can do for anybody is first you have to let them know they're special and unique, but that's one thing. But if you can give a person an understanding and an awareness that they actually have a whole different position in the group, that's a total change forever in who they are, and it actually gives them a different focus. And by the way, who is this child? What's the name of this poor child? Yehuda. And what eventually comes from Yehuda? Leader, kingship. This is really the definition of what it means to be a king. It means to be a king means to be responsible for everybody's growth, for everybody's job. If hopefully you'll get them to do their job, you'll inspire them to do the job, but if one of them can't do the job, what do you have to do? You have to do it. You have responsibility, which means God is actually using you as his manager. That's a whole different level of existence that a person has. I'm not thanking you for the fact that for one child you have to say thank you. And two children, how much more so you have to say thank you. I'm privileged to be able to be a participant. And people did say thank you. They got Parshas. Thank you, God, thank you. Here she's saying that from now on, everything she does in life, she has a whole different view of herself and a whole different perspective on herself. And it's an ongoing thank you, God. And I guess it's also nice to say thank you, because sometimes extra responsibility is not always thank you for extra responsibility, unless you realize that you are actually have a certain capability, that you are actually capable. There's very few people that are capable of taking over other people's responsibilities. But a real good manager, put it like this, a successful owner, I think, of any business is always that if the guy who lays carpet can't come in, you know how to do it, or you're not doing a good job, you show him how to do it. Let's say you're in the construction business. The guy who's really successful can do everybody's job, and he has to be capable of doing everybody's job. If he's not really capable of doing everybody's job, he doesn't really have a hold and ownership of the company, because they really own him. They can shortchange him, they can do shoddy work, he's got this, and he doesn't really know what's happening. Real ownership really requires the ability to do what everybody else does, and to understand what they're doing, and therefore if the guy doesn't show up, you can actually do it, and probably, hopefully, do it better than the people that are doing it. That's an enormous thing when you're giving a person a message, and that they're actually imbued with the ability to do everybody else's job too. That's an enormous validation of a person. She's been totally validated here. This is the total validation. You are capable of taking over other people's responsibilities. You can do their job. You can. It's not just having another biological child. She has to develop these children. So each one had to develop 3 children in there, for what the children needed. And all of a sudden, now she finds out that one of them can't do, and she can bring up your child the way you have to bring up the child. I mean, that's an enormous ability, enormous validation of her. And therefore, everything in her life from this moment changed. She has a total responsibility for everything that goes on in the development of the Jewish people. And that is an ongoing sense of thanks, and that's a tremendous transformation. She's been elevated from employee to manage it, which is a sense of ownership in the Jewish people. It's like almost a sense of ownership in the Jewish people. And therefore her son becomes the king. And that's exactly what a king, which by the way, it's Judah, King David, and eventually Mashiach. That's not that this is a whole sense of a role in the Jewish people. And that's, in fact, I think probably the best way to describe Mashiach ultimately is like the Rambam says, Mashiach has to be like Korov Moshe the Nevuah. He has to be very close to, in the level of prophecy, to Moshe Rabbi. And he has to be wise like King Solomon. And as a prophet, he has to be close to Moshe. I never listened to to be a prophet has to be close to Moshe for it. After Moshe, there's no new mitzvahs. There's no new mitzvahs. After Moshe Rabbeinu died, there's no new mitzvahs. If someone says, God spoke to me and gave a new mitzvah, he's considered a false prophet, and we deal with him very harshly. So why does it become incumbent on Mashiach to be like close to Moshe in prophecy? There's no reason for it. He's not given any prophecy. The way I understand it is like this. The unique thing about the prophecy of Moshe was it was Torah, but Moshe was actually a prophet who actually heard the words from God. So that when Moshe spoke, it was like God was talking. Mashiach can't give any more mitzvahs, but one thing is, he's God's representative here more than everybody else. He's actually the king, but he's not the king. Through him, God is the king, because when he opens his mouth, it's not that the king is talking to you, it's like God is talking to you, which is not true by any of the other prophets. All other prophets, God gives the prophet a message, and the message the prophet gives in his words, the message. If you send someone, do me a favor, tell somebody, you didn't give them the exact text. All prophets, the words are the words of the prophet. The only one that is the words of the Almighty exact is Moshe, which means that when the listener listens to a normal prophet, okay, I know what God wants me to do, but I'm not hearing God. That's not what God said. I got the gist of what you want. When Moshe spoke, it was like you heard God talk. In fact, the language of the Talmud is the divine presence came out of his mouth. What it's saying is, Mashiach is very close to that. It's like God is talking to you. The person who really has managerial responsibility for the Jewish people, that's God's representative. When you put a manager in a company to run he's in your place, though. He's representing you. That's what Hapamo did. And that's what she's thanking. I mean, she has been elevated and taken out of employee level, and she is God's. She understands she has managerial responsibility over here, and that's an ongoing, constant sense of thank you, because she understands her position in the Jewish people. I think this is an incredibly important thing, and it's hard to do it. But we can't. I mean, first of all, we're not God, so we don't know exactly how to give everybody what exactly their position is. But certainly with our children, the main thing that we can do is give them a feeling of validation of who they are and what they're capable of doing. All of us have unique abilities here, but very few of us really understand what our unique abilities are. No, there's other doctors, there's other rabbis, there's other investment bankers, there's a lot, all of us are doing, okay, maybe I think I'm a little more better doctor, but I'm not going to think there's not doctors that don't know more than me too, right? And yet, it's not like that. Everybody has unique. Everybody in the world is unique, has something that they do that nobody else can do. That's what the rabbis tell us. Everybody has something unique. The job of a parent is to be able to try and, as much as possible, give the child that feeling of uniqueness. Now, I say we're not God, and most of us have a hard time being exact, but most aren't even focused on that. Oh, you're a nice boy, you're smart. At least give a child the feeling, you know what? You can be a doctor. And you know what? With your talent, you should be this kind of doctor. And that child, you have a tremendous ability. You should be a teacher. You should be a lawyer. And then if you're really astute, and if you focus, you'll probably be able to give them even guidance. What type of doctor? Should you be a surgeon? Should you be the cardiologist? Or should you be the surgeon? Should you be the neurologist? I mean, the one who administers the radiation? Or should you be the oncologist? That's two different things. And if you're really astute, you should be able to define that. The more a person understands who they're unique, then the more a person will reach their potential. That's our job. She was given by God, so it's by God you understand exactly, and she knows exactly what her now role is. She's been made manager. But as a parent, that's our job as much as possible, to validate the children, to give them a feeling of who they are and what they're capable of being. The fact that I want to say my son the doctor, my son the lawyer, it's not about the child, that's about me. And it's very, very important to really help somebody discover who they are. And if you discover who somebody's are, you've done them a huge amount of good. You've enabled that, you've empowered them to use their abilities. And the more you can refine it, the more precise, the better they feel about themselves. That's our job as a parent, to actually help our children understand what their abilities are and empower them. If we have illusions, and a lot of us as children felt, no, my parents want me to be somebody I'm not. I'm not that student, or I'm not that type of person. I don't really want to. No, you got to do this. You go to this school. You go to that school. That's a huge harm we're doing. You have to really try and help them figure out who they really are. And when a person understands who they really are, and to the best that you're able to focus them on that, the more empowered they are. That is our job. That's really what makes a person strong, makes a person feel good about themselves. And to some extent, it's not a total transformation, but there's a huge amount of thank you that they will owe you, because they could have done something else, and they could have been successful, but it wouldn't have been them. They wouldn't be special in that. They might have made a lot. They might be making a lot of money, but it doesn't really say who they are. We're not doing anybody a favor. The real feeling of value is when a person knows they're doing who they really are, and the thing which they are unique in, and the things they're really maximizing their abilities. Then a person feels good about themselves. And that creates a whole different type of thank you. It's one thing to give your child a college education. Thank you for sending me for $40,000 a year to university. I thank you, and you gave me housing, cost you $50. Thank you. But it's another thing when you actually sent them to something that, I'll also thank you. Now I have a college education, I can make a livelihood. Okay, there's a certain amount of ongoing thanks, but it's no comparison when you're actually able to put a person in touch with who they are. That's a transformative experience, and therefore that's an ongoing sense of appreciation you owe a person. That's really what our focus has to be as parents. And I think that's really what Jacob is so devastated at the beginning of the Parsha. He doesn't have any money. Well, so what? That's what she needs. She needs fancy jewelry. That's going to tell. It means like this. What is the custom? Actually, Rashi brings in this Parsha in a different place. What was the custom when you got married to a girl? Who gave whom money? The girl's father gave the boy money. And all of a sudden, Jacob feels that what he should be doing is what? He should be giving money to the girl. What message is he giving the girl?
He really likes it.
Huh?
Very valuable.
He appreciates it.
He doesn't want to depend on the father, though.
He takes responsibility for her. Because he's taking her job plus his job.
I guess you could say that, but
he's playing the role of her father.
Okay, but isn't really when you if somebody should be paying you, if you should be paying for something, and somebody pays you for that, what are they really telling you? Who's doing who the favor? Who's the one that is actually?
She's doing him a favor.
She's doing him a huge favor. You have that normally, nobody wants the girl. She has to get married, and father, you got to pay again. But she needs to get married. When you pay to marry her, that really means that she can actually bring something into the marriage that could actually be something tremendously worthwhile to you, that you're willing to pay for. That has to give her a whole different feeling of what being married is, and how you value her, and what you think she can do for you. And that's really what a marriage should be also. A marriage should be giving your wife the appreciation of what she does for you. That how unbelievable what you're receiving from her. That's, we all remind them we do for them. That we know what we do. But the real way to make her feel that she is important is not, well, I did this for you, I did not. The reason I did this for you and this for you is because of what you do for me. Of what you do for me. You do this for me, and you're building me up, and I would have never made it through school without you, and I wouldn't last a day in the job with you, and I get depressed, and I go up and down, and the only reason I'm able to achieve whatever I am is because of you. That's a whole different feeling that you're giving your wife. But Yaakov Avinu felt literally crying about that he wouldn't be able to give her the good feeling about herself, that he wouldn't be able to validate what he understands she can actually bring into the marriage. And that's it's like setting the whole marriage off on the wrong foot. Yeah, okay, I'll take care of you. You're mine, and I will make sure you live happily ever after. Of course, you have responsibilities, but you're getting a big check from your father to marry you. You need to get married. I'll take care of you. No. He wants to give her the message of what she's bringing into the marriage. That's the validation of her. So the whole Parshas is about validating people. The ultimate validation is you have this particular quality. Children, the same thing. Give them some awareness of who they are and what their capability is. It takes a lot of focus. It's as a teacher, it's easy. Oh, you can be a big Talmud Chacham. You're very smart. Okay. It's all true, but the student didn't really get anything from that. There's another 10 smart kids in the class. If you can this is your ability. There's people that are quicker than you. There's people that are deeper than you, but there's nobody that's as creative as you, or there's nobody that's as analytical as you. There's nobody who asks the type of questions you do. As soon as you start giving a person their unique ability, you're putting them in touch with themselves. All life is about putting people in touch with themselves. And ultimately, God, I'm telling you who you are. You know who you are? You are somebody that can take care of other people's jobs. An enormous. God is exact. We can't do that, but we can certainly try to do that. But it requires thinking about the child. And by the way, if you do this for your children, not going to be any jealousy too. Even in the classroom, I'm talking classroom management. People who are smart kids are competitive with each other. But if I will tell a student, okay, now what's the difficulty? What's the question that has to be asked? And I turn to student A. And when I want to know, where did we have a similar principle? I turn to student B. And when I want to know, does anybody have an imaginative way to answer, I turn to student C. Everybody's very comfortable. Each person senses his uniqueness. If you can give over in a classroom, in the height of everybody is vying for position, that when I need a certain type of intelligence, I ask you, what you bring to the table. When I want to know something else, I ask you. And when I want to know something else, I ask you. That first of all, everybody has a respect. Everybody knows that each one has something special. And therefore, what he has doesn't take away from you what you have. We identify our uniqueness. There's a tremendous people work together that way. And not only that, I know what you're bringing to the table. You know what I'm bringing to the table. We're not in competition. We are supporting each other and building each other. It's probably the best management technique in teaching and in everything. With your children also. They're not going to be jealous of each other. Okay, this one's smarter, but when I need somebody who understands people, you're the science genius. When I need somebody who understands people, I ask this child. and I need somebody who knows how to get things done, I ask a different child. Is there going to be any jealousy among the children? This is the one who's when I need things done, does it. This is the one who has insights into people. This is the one who has academic knowledge. Yeah, and this is the one who, when I need kindness or favors, is this one. You got 4 children, and they're all comfortable with each other. But it has to be true also. If the one that you give the job to is the one who can't do it, and the one that you look for the psychological insight, that's not their capability, so then it doesn't work. You have to really identify everybody's unique ability and make the others aware of it, then we're working together. We're not in a competitive thing. That's our main job as parents, is to be able to identify a person's unique ability and validate that. And to the extent that you validate, that's a transformative experience. That's not giving them something, it's giving them themselves. Their whole lives are different. And they're not going to be focused. I'm never going to be an A student like my sister. But it doesn't make a difference. I have something else. If I need a job, I'm better in organization. I'll be able to manage a company. And whatever it is, I'll be able to run things. Or I'll never be as smart and I don't know how to run things, but if you need to understand people, then I have a place. When you validate a person, you transform them, and the relationship with his peers becomes easy, and that's our job as parents to do. It requires a lot of work and effort, but we do that. Kids they're supportive of each other. They look to each other. They'll all turn, okay, what do you say on this? On this other question, they turn to the other one. Everybody has a place. And that's why Hashem created the world. I'm not reinventing the world. That's what how God made the world. He gave everybody unique abilities. Just like everybody has, this is the language of the Talmud, just like everybody has different facial features, everybody has a different way of thinking of things, which means everybody has a different perspective, and we can all learn from each other. And that means we all have our place. Our job is to help people find what their place is. I should have a great chance.